So you may remember the video I made about concept cars a few months ago. Oh my god, it's been a year. How has it been a year? That genuinely doesn't seem that long ago. Anyway, if you've seen that video, I promised a part 2, and I have always, since making that video, wanted to return to the wild west of concept cars. So let's get all these arbitrary explanations and introductions out of the way. Let's just get into it. Ford has always been one of the kings of concepts, but I think one of their coolest offerings in this vein was the GT90. Obviously, based on the name, this is meant to be a successor to the legendary GT40 and is possibly related to the GT70 rally car from a few decades back. It takes a few styling cues from the GT40, most notably the doors cut into the roofline, and was also the very first Ford to display the new edge styling, which was the overall brand overhaul Ford was undertaking in the mid to late 1990s. The concept itself debuted at the 1995 Detroit Auto Show with a 5.9 litre turbocharged V12 putting out a very impressive 720 horsepower, which would have made it one of the most powerful cars of the time. It would have pushed the GT90 to a 0 to 60 of just 3.1 seconds and a blistering top speed of 253 miles per hour. Just for context, that's the same top speed as a base 2005 Bugatti Veyron 10 years previous. The concept was built by a small team in only a 6-month period, and a lot of parts were taken from the Jaguar XJ220, as Ford owned Jag at the time. The car, unlike a lot of these concepts, was actually planned to go into production. However, in the end the project was canned and the concept lives on as a relic as to what could have been one of the coolest production cars ever built. The title for GT40's successor therefore was handed over to the Ford GT, which launched in 2005 and likely took many design cues and ideas from the GT90. Now how about we switch lanes and look at something completely ridiculous, in this case being the BMW Gina, which supposedly stands for Geometry Functions in N Adaptions, whatever that means. Basically, this concept doesn't have a traditional body. Instead, it's covered by this fabric, more specifically spandex, which is apparently elastic, completely waterproof, extreme cold and heat resistant, and even partially translucent for some reason. The spandex is stretched over a frame which apparently can move. For example, the headlights are partially obscured when turned off, but will open in an eyelid-like fashion when turned on. Again, for no particular reason at all. While I do think this concept is completely arbitrary and would never feasibly make it onto a production vehicle because of how ludicrous it is an interesting idea, and I actually think it looks kinda cool, like a modern BMW, and the rear also kinda looks like a 350Z, but that's beside the point. Overall, a pretty stupid concept in my opinion, and being that it was commissioned in 2001 and didn't publicly appear until 2008, I don't think it was worth the effort. Oh yeah, and the fabric crumples when you open the door, which looks ridiculous, so good job BMW. Okay, let's get back to some normality. Lamborghini is another brand notable for their range of concept cars, as we saw briefly last time with the Lamborghini Carla, or Carla, I really do not know how you pronounce it. However, there was a small series of concepts that predated that model from the 1980s called the P140. By the late 80s, Lamborghini were looking to replace both the Jalpa and the Countach. Work on the Countach's follow-up, the Diablo, was already well underway by the time the company turned onto their second car in 1987. Marcello Gandini, a name well heard of around here by now, was once again brought on to design this model. The thing was to be powered by a 4-litre V10, and the extremely wedgy design of the model was built largely out of aluminium. Development of the P140 actually got surprisingly far into the process, with it looking ever more likely that it would end up going into production. However, as it turned to the 1990s, interest in high-performance sports and supercars began to dwindle due to the 1990 oil price shock. Lamborghini's then owner, Chrysler, decided to shelve the project indefinitely as to only focus on one model, the Diablo. Many design cues from the P140 made their way onto the aforementioned 1995 Carla concept, but it wouldn't be until 2003 with the Gallardo in which a V10 would finally make it to a production Lambo. Lamborghini's rival Ferrari have also had their fair shots at concepts too. Most notable and best looking in my opinion is the Ferrari Mythos concept of 1989. The car was actually never intended to go into production, instead being constructed as a design study. The initial concept was actually built upon the underpinnings of a Ferrari Testarossa. You can see the wedge design synonymous with the Testarossa, as well as carrying over the rear intakes in front of the rear wheels. It was powered by the same 4.9 litre flat 12 engine from the Testarossa, developing 390 horsepower. Not much is known about the Mythos, but it did go on to show itself at the 1989 Tokyo Motor Show, and the design later went on to morph into the F40's successor, the Ferrari F50. Essentially, the Mythos is a combination of the F50 and the Testarossa, featuring the wedginess of the Testarossa but the smooth curves of the F50. Apparently, the Sultan of Brunei also ordered two Mythos for himself, one in red and one in turquoise, so they'll be worth quite a lot of money. Overall, a perfectly adequate concept from Ferrari with what is possibly one of the coolest names for a car ever. Cadillac is a brand I'm not really too in the know with. They produce some cool cars from time to time, but I know I would love them a whole lot more if this thing actually went into production, the Cien concept of 2002. When unveiled at the 2002 Detroit Auto Show, it was actually Cadillac's 100-year anniversary, hence the name Cien, which means 100 in Spanish. For the time and for the brand, the Cien was surprisingly nippy. It featured a 7.5 litre V12 making around 750 horsepower. So it's kinda comparable with the aforementioned Ford GT90 concept. It was created at General Motors UK division of their Advanced Design Studio. To this day, despite only ever appearing on the road as a concept, it remains the fastest Cadillac ever built. It could reach a whopping 217 miles per hour with a 0 to 60 time of around 3.5 seconds. Michael Bay would go on to give this thing a second life in his 2005 film The Island, and then later on in the critically acclaimed, almost perfect cinematic experience that was Transformers: Age of Extinction. Many have also theorised that the Cien was a very early test run for a potential mid-engine Corvette, which, as we all know, finally came to fruition in 2019 with the C8 Corvette. Perhaps now, with a mid-engine Corvette making its rounds and Cadillac not having much in the way of performance these days, a production version of the Cien might finally make an appearance. But who really knows? Now, how about we go a little off the rails for the final concept with Mazda. Mazda is generally perceived to be pretty straightforward these days and have produced some fairly standard cars for the past few years. But back in 2007, Mazda revealed this, the Furai, which, let me say, is probably one of the coolest names for a car like ever, even cooler than Mythos, and yeah, this is probably one of the coolest looking concepts as well. The Furai was the last in a line of concepts Mazda had been creating since 2006 and was based heavily on a previous Le Mans prototype. The Furai was powered by a 3-rotor Wankel engine making around 450 brake horsepower, which in of itself was built by rotary tuner Racing Beat. The body had some extreme styling, most notably that of its rear lights, which were beyond futuristic. The car even wore the number 55, a number synonymous with the winner of the 1991 24 Hours of Le Mans, the Mazda 787B. The Furai had a lot of heritage at its forefront, but the story of the concept was unfortunately one with a sad ending. Because the concept was fully functional under its own power, Mazda allowed numerous groups to test it, one of which was Top Gear. While testing the Mazda at RAF Bentwaters in England, the car's engine base suddenly caught fire while cresting a hill. The driver was able to escape with little to no injury, but because of the location of the car at the time of the accident, it took fire crews multiple minutes to reach it. By the time they were able to finally put the fire out, the Furai was reduced to a charred skeleton. The remains were supposedly returned to Mazda themselves, but it is currently unknown what happened after that. The story gets even worse considering it was said that the Furai was originally planned to be put into production. Truly upsetting. I think one thing this video has proven, apart from the fact that concept cars are like the coolest things on the planet, is that the quote-unquote barrel of concept cars is kind of endless. With so many brands and manufacturers wanting to build a vision of the future of their own, there is bound to be thousands of these things floating around. Who knows, maybe it's just enough for a potential part 3 down the line. I'm very sorry to any fans of the original video who have been waiting a full year for part 2, but I hope these 6 concepts have temporarily quenched your thirst. If you want more regular exposure to concept cars, please follow my Instagram, link in the description. Every Wednesday I post a brand new concept car for you guys, so be sure to check it out. I would like to thank my current patrons who have all been supporting my channel over the past few months, especially Ben Wright, who is currently donating at the highest tier. Links to that, as well as my Instagram and Discord server, are in the description. Other than that, thank you for watching and take care.